United's lack of recruitment in central midfield is a huge concern. Ruben Amorim's 3-4-3 system is hugely reliant on having elite-level athletes in central midfield, due to the massive amounts of space that they have to cover in pressing situations and on the recovery when the press is beaten, but accompany this with the in-possession requirements of press resistance in the build-up phase, ball progressing ability via either passes or carries through the centre of the pitch, alongside the close ball control and quick footwork to operate effectively in congested areas, and you suddenly realise that Amorim's 3-4-3 is going to need at least one, but ideally two of the most complete central midfielders available. With players like Carlos Baleba and Adam Wharton in my opinion likely being unattainable this summer, and Ederson not being prioritised likely due to the lack of remaining budget to afford him, one name that should be mentioned is Lucien Agoume. But how good is he actually? Does he specialise in the necessary attributes? And is his skill set complete enough for what United need? Well, I think he is, and so in this video I'm going to analyse Agoume statistically and from the eye test, whilst also explaining why I think he could be the perfect alternative to the likes of Baleba and Ederson in central midfield, but could also potentially be evolved into a central centre-back in a back three, which I think could significantly improve United in multiple phases of play that seem to be overlooked at the moment, in regards to their overall importance to the team. But before I get into that, if you want to check out any cheap, good quality football jerseys, go over to okjersey.com. They've got the new Manchester United releases for the upcoming season, with OK Jersey also allowing you to pick up high quality football shirts from just £15, plus free shipping across Europe for all orders over £45. They sent me over these new release alternative Manchester United jerseys from this season, as well as a long sleeved retro home shirt from the 92-93 season with Cantona 7 on the back, alongside this Nuno Gomes Benfica shirt from the 97-98 season as well. If you use code ALANTIS at checkout you'll get a discount, so I'll leave it linked in the description and in the comments section below. But to begin with, let's define what type of central midfielder Agoume is. So he's best suited to playing a holding role in midfield, but his skill set suggests that he is a hybrid between a ball winner and a first phase playmaker. In Football Manager terms, his best role would either be as an anchor man or a halfback, and I'll come on to the distinction between these two types of roles later on in the video. His role is not to orchestrate the tempo or dominate possession, but to anchor the midfield, control space in front of the defence, using his reading of the game and physically dominant tackling style to break up opposition attacks, whilst in possession, he acts as the initial connector between the defensive line and more creative players ahead of him. While he has shown flashes of box-to-box mobility, something that could definitely evolve in his game throughout the next few seasons, either in central midfield or maybe even at the centre of a back three, his natural role at the minute lies in deeper areas of the midfield, where he can combine his physicality and athleticism with his intelligent reading of the game. See, Agoume's key strengths are built on a powerful athletic foundation. Standing at 6'2", he is physically imposing, combining long strides with explosive short-distance acceleration, allowing him to almost glide across the pitch. He's also very difficult to dispossess in possession, even in tight areas, and is often the one coming out of physical duels with the ball still at his feet. This strength under pressure paired with his excellent close ball control and composure makes him a reliable outlet when building out from deep. Even when opponents attempt to oppress him aggressively, Agoume has a balance and body orientation to shield the ball and retain possession, and we can see this statistically in comparison to every other central midfielder in the top 5 leagues on these two graphs, with the first plotting progressive passing accuracy against dribble success rate, where he stands out as an outlier above the median for both, with an incredibly high dribble success rate close to 80%, and the second showing his progressive action rate against the volume of progressive actions he completes per 90, where Agoume ranks sufficiently above the median for both metrics again. Another standout aspect of his game is his defensive scanning and anticipation. He is constantly checking over his shoulder, adjusting his positioning to cut off passing lanes or move closer to the opponent about to receive the ball. He times these engagements well and often presses with short bursts of acceleration, closing down space in a flash and forcing hurried decisions. This ability to go from a passive stance to sudden defensive pressure in a matter of seconds is reminiscent of players like Moises Caicedo and Amadou Onana. Agoume also tackles with full body commitment, rather than simply reaching out with a leg. He uses his frame to physically unsettle the opponents, often winning possession through his sheer strength. As this percentage the volume of defensive duels plot graph shows, Agoume does need to increase his win percentage rate in accordance with his volume, But I wouldn't say that this is really a concern in my opinion, with this graph for possessions won against interceptions adjusted for possession, once again seeing him positioned well above the median for both metrics, with his high volume of interceptions showing the effectiveness of his reading of the game and speed across short distances. Aerially, his height and physicality allows him to be one of the most aerially dominant central midfielders around, particularly useful against opposition sides who look to go long into the centre forward, when he's defending crosses in the defensive third and from defensive and offensive set pieces, whilst also being a key aspect of his skill set that could allow him to move deeper into the back three in the future. Now, although Agoume isn't known for his high volume dribbling, he is a very reliable dribbler when he has to, as his success rate shows. He's an effective ball carrier when he does choose to drive forward, ranking in the 65th percentile for his progressive carries, but as you can see from his slightly lower ball carrying frequency, as well as his progressive passing metrics, ranking around the 75th percentile mark, when it comes to progressing the ball forward, he is better at doing this via his passing as opposed to his carrying. And from the eye test, Agoume does have one specific passing trait that really stands out to me, and that's his ability to split the midfield line with an incisive pass accompanied by the sort of disguise technique that makes it difficult for the opposition to read, adjust and intercept. Something that makes the likes of Adam Wharton and Lamine Camara so effective as progressive passers. Now, in terms of long-range passing, the issue lies not in his vision, but in his technique. Agoume tends to float his passes, often clipping the ball over the top of pressure or across the pitch. These floated high passes do give the opposition time to shift across and close down the receiver, or even intercept the ball entirely. He rarely drives his passes with the sort of speed and trajectory that is able to split a defensive structure and create an immediate advantage, and we can see this statistically with his long pass completion rate sitting in just the 11th percentile, with him also completing a low volume of long passes as well, and so switching play from deeper areas is definitely an area of his game that he does need to improve. Now, in the final third, his impact is minimal, nowhere near the creativity higher up the pitch of players like Lamine Camara or Hayden Hackney, whilst also not providing the same sort of powerful ball carrying ability of an Ederson or a Kepran Thuram. His value in the attacking phase instead comes from the defensive security that he will provide in the rest defence, with his speed, physicality and composed yet robust tackling ability, making him the perfect player to hold a deeper position in the rest defence behind the ball, which is actually something that United desperately need, with none of Bruno, Casemiro, Ugarte or Mainu being ideal when it comes to breaking up opposition counter-attacks. Now, defensively, while his awareness in midfield zones is strong, he can occasionally be caught flat-footed inside of the box, but in general, he does show greater ability to read the game and move to close off spaces, compared with either Ugarte or Casemiro, who are both prone to switching off and allowing runs off their blind side in these type of situations around the box. Tactically, Agoume fits best in a system that utilises a single pivot in a 4-3-3 or a double pivot in a 4-2-3-1, 4-4-2, as well as a 3-4-3 like United use, especially one that demands physicality and speed across the ground, ball progression through the centre, as well as press resistance in the build-up phase. When compared to other young central midfielders with similar skill sets, Agoume fits into an interesting bracket. He lacks a ball-carrying volume of a Carlos Baleba, the creative passing ability of a Lamine Camara, or the aggressive front-foot ball-winning ability of a player like Ugarte, but he sits somewhere in between, less explosive, but having a more complete skill set than the likes of Ugarte and Mainu. He is also a bit more positionally disciplined than someone like Baleba, more physically secure than Camara, and does offer significantly better press resistance and ball progression than Ugarte. He may not be elite in one specific thing, but he performs well across multiple key areas required in modern day double pivots. As for his ceiling, I think Agoume definitely has the potential to be a key player for a title-challenging side, with my expectation being that within the next 2 to 4 years, he should develop to a similar level to the ones that we saw stylistically similar players like Thomas Partey and Moises Caicedo at last season. Now, as a central midfielder in Ruben Amorim's midfield double pivot, I could see him performing a similar role to the one that we saw Nemanja Matic in Antonio Conte's 3-4-3 back in 2017. He'd excel in the role of a kind of anchorman or ball-winning midfielder alongside Bruno, Casemiro, Ugarte or Mainu, tasked with sitting behind the play in possession, providing defensive security in the rest defence, whilst also being an improvement when defending inside of the defensive third. whether this is from tracking runners in behind, from slightly wider areas, or when dropping back into the box to utilise aerial and physical dominance from crossing situations. However, in possession, his incisive passing ability and press resistance would allow him to play a more influential role for United, which is where we can tactically differentiate the role of an anchor man or ball winner to that of a halfback, which is a central midfielder who plays more of a playmaking role in the build-up and middle third, being able to drop into the back line in order to thread passes through the centre from deeper areas, simultaneously allowing one of the wide centre-backs to push further forward with vertical third-man runs from deep. But I also think that Agoume's defensive awareness, composure and astute technical ability, combined with his physicality, athleticism and aerial ability, could potentially see him evolve into a central centre-back, providing an alternative to De Ligt in the back three, which would bring significant benefits in possession, with Agoume's press resistance making him far more reliable and effective in the build-up phase than De Ligt currently is, which would significantly improve United's ability to play through the centre of pressure and making them less reliant on building out down the channels and resulting to lower probability long passes into the front line. Whilst higher up the pitch around 25 to 30 yards from goal or in the middle third, Agoume's incisive passing ability and disguise technique should also improve United's ability to progress the ball through the centre of the pitch, which is a primary element of Ruben Amorim's ball progression strategy in this phase of play. So overall, considering Agoume could potentially be available for somewhere between £20 to £25 million this summer, he seems like the perfect Baleba and Ederson alternative for United. Stylistically ideal for what Ruben Amorim's midfield double pivot requires, with his varied skill set and potential to be moved back into a central centre-back role, giving him a further advantage over other central midfield targets. So let me know if Agoume would be your number one alternative to the likes of Baleba and Ederson in the comments section below, and if you want to check out any cheap, good quality football jerseys, go over to okjersey.com, use code ATLANTIS at checkout to get a 10% discount. I'll leave a link in the description and in the comments section below, and I'll leave my Patreon linked on the end screen now as well.